Okay, practical steps on how to make decisions during transitions, aka how to surrender what you expected would happen and then transition to something different than what you expected. For me, story time. I wanted to move to LA or California, and then the Lord was like, no, your time isn't done here in Michigan. And I was upset. And I had a group of girls pray with me, and I was upset. I went to bed that night being like, I didn't hear LA or Chicago, nothing. Come on, God. Why does following you feel like sacrifice and surrender instead of like you just giving me everything I want? Because sometimes what we want isn't what's best for us. Okay, so the steps I did, I first off wrote down the things I wanted. So I was like, Lord, I want to decide where to go between Chicago, Los Angeles, or staying here in Michigan. I started thinking about what was I actually looking for? So like I was trying to leave the place I was in. What do I see that's in Chicago and LA versus what's here? What do I want? And I was like, I just want influence. I want diversity. I love the big city feel. Like I want those things. I miss the people, the diversity, the eating out at restaurants. I don't know. But career-wise, I wanted influence. I wanted to influence a lot of people. As I processed that with God, it was like, okay, so what can Lansing fulfill those things? Because again, the words I was getting in prayer were about how my time wasn't done. So I was like, I have influence in Lansing. There is diversity. I'm a part of All the Above Hip Hop Academy, and I love those people. I love it. I love our crew. Our crew, our fam is diverse, like talented. Not like talented, like talented. Notice the difference. Not like talented, like talented. Which is why you want to go to LA or Chicago anyway, because you're like, I'm seeking the big wigs. I'm a part of the big wigs, and I love them here, and they have beautiful hearts. Like, that's the best part about it. Anyway, I regress. Let me bring it back. The things I was searching in other places, I had it in front of me. Diversity, influencing a lot of people. Social media helps you influence a lot of people. And we just have to acknowledge that. But do people use it for good or bad? And that's people's choices. So practical steps. Number 1, I actually wrote down the things I was trying to decide, all of it. Getting it out of your head and onto a sheet of paper. Dreams, vision. I mean, it could be a mess. I wish I could show you my whiteboard. It could be a mess. Who cares? Just write it all in there. Write it all down. Then once I decided, as I wrote it all down, I asked a group of people I trusted to pray with me. I scheduled a call for all of us to pray. Now, the Lord told me that morning that there were people that were going to drop. There were people that were not going to join the call. That happened, and that is okay. Don't get upset or disappointed. Who's meant to be on the call will be on the call, and who's not won't. On the call, I thanked everybody for being there and gave them 3 very practical and specific steps that were helpful. I wanted them to pray about with me. 1, what were my gifts and callings? What is God saying about me? 2, where is he calling me to in this next season? And I didn't tell them Chicago, LA, Lansing. I was just like, whatever you think, what you hear from the Lord, because I don't want people to be biased. And then 3, what is your role in my life? So, what are my gifts and talents? Where am I called to in the next season right now? What is your role in my life? So I actually played a worship song. We got to move away from the camera and the Zoom call and just pray, and you could do this in person if it's not COVID season. And we just prayed, and then I came back and I was like, okay, what did you hear from the Lord about those 3 questions? And I listened to everything everyone said. Now, thing about prophetic prayer is you have to make sure not only do you trust the source, but that it sits well in your spirit. And I believe God confirms things to let you know that it is him. So yeah, so I heard them, and then I was like, we'll see what resonates, and we'll see what God keeps saying. Here's what's so cool. Some of the things kept coming up over and over and over again. Okay. So step 1, back to the practicals. I wrote down everything I thought I wanted, ideas. Step 2, I took it to a group of people I trusted to pray with me about it. 3, we heard from the Lord and wrote that down. And then wait, time, walk, like rest and walk and try to figure it out. No, I mean, those kind of sound like contradictory, but they're not. Pretty much now you just let time become your friend and like ask God to keep revealing things to you, but remember the things he said. And so I intentionally would be like, if somebody says something, I'm like, it's interesting you talked about diversity. Like that's something God's speaking to me about. Or, it's interesting you talk about being patient. Like that was spoken to me. And I kept going back to that journal to go back to what God had said. Ooh, almost went on a tangent. You know how like people go to psychics and then they're like, believe the psychic and what it said, like so heavy, right? How come it is so crazy, quote unquote, for us to actually hear from the Lord, receive a prayer, and then go back to it? I don't think it is. It's not. The whole point of me saying that is it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not like the blueprint of our life, but there are little wonderful clues that God is speaking from heaven down to earth. If it's true, because you got to make sure the prophecy is true, because there are some people, there's a lot of there's a lot of us. Even if we all hear from the Lord, there are a lot of us sometimes in the things we're speaking out. So if you end up praying for people and you hear things from the Lord, like don't try to fill in the gaps. Be like, I saw a Teletubby. I don't know what that's about. Don't try to like make it all big. Like I see a Teletubby and then I think the Teletubby signifies like peace in your childhood. Like don't make it up. Because that person, if that's meant to be their word, which by the way, I have heard this before in a prayer, like somebody had said Teletubby and I was like, and then that person cried and just shared their thoughts and like why that was so significant. They knew it was from God. Okay, let me bring it back. Yeah. So giving yourself time to hear those things from the Lord and like have it reaffirmed over and over and over again based on what he said. And then my next step, I would say, is move boldly. Like make a decision and land it and move boldly. Here's what's so cool. If it's the wrong decision, God will let you know, because then it's not even feelings. Like things, it won't work out. He'll shut the door. If it is the right way, he'll bless it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to go through conflict or trial. Make that clear. You will still go through tribulation. Like there's a lot of storms sometimes we have to go through to get to the other side of what God has for us. But there is a peace on the inside of your chest that even though it's hard, you know it's worth it. There is a peace on the inside of your chest that you cannot refute. Even though it feels hard and uncomfortable and scary, you feel like not doing it would be more wrong. I hope that helps. Here's the deal. I'm not an expert. It's just me sharing my life. But my hope is that it's helpful. So, toodles, practical steps, write down all the things you're thinking about, pray about it, actually go back to the things you hear from the Lord and write them down. Go back to the things that you hear from the Lord in the midst of time. Like walk through a process. There's a process before the promise. And like try to walk those things out, and the doors that are meant to be shut will be shut, and the doors that are meant to be open will open. And then just be bold and do it. Just be bold and do it. I repeat. So to conclude what that means for my life, like the Lord said, it's time for me to stay. I said, if I'm called to stay, like what are the next steps? So today I put an offer on our house. I started looking at houses. I walked it out, and again, blessings, right? So it's like, oh wow, God's blessing that. And today's the inspection. So, even though I wanted LA and Chicago, God wanted me in Lansing. And I don't know why, but I know that I heard him. I know I trust him. And I know he has big things in store because that's who God is. And I know that when we surrender our expectations and say yes to his expectations, it's because it's greater in the big scheme of things from the perspective of how he can see it. So I hope that encourages you. Love you. Toodles.